Well, the book is out from one of our favorite Ramsey personalities who you hear on this show with regularity, or the station with regularity, and that's Dr. John Delony joining us on KCMO in Kansas City. The book, Building a Non-Anxious Life, just got my copy in the mail this morning. Dr. John, good morning. Good to have you on KCMO, my friend. Thanks for being here.
Dude, thanks for the hospitality, Pete. It's good to talk to you, man.
You as well. So I'm trying to figure this out. How did we get to this point, John, where we live in the wealthiest country in the history of humankind, yet we now are dealing with anxiety through the roof, suicides are up, depression is up. Before we get to the, how do we solve it? How did we get here?
I think it's a confluence of 100 different things, everything from cutting ties with some sort of belief in something bigger than yourself, to loneliness, to the medicalization of every human issue, to this avoidance of any sort of discomfort ever. I think it's a whole bunch of things that happened real fast, happened overnight, and it all happened at the same time. And then you throw that, you get this big vat of gasoline, and then the match is social media, endless 24-hour news cycles, and it's combustible.
Yeah, that makes as much sense as anything I've heard on this. So now, as we go through your book, it's really about, in large part, the 6 daily choices to a non-anxious life. What are those 6 daily choices that we can inherently make to try to lead as non-anxious a lifestyle as possible?
I think it's important to call out that just saying that out loud is revolutionary, because if you're like me, you hear something like that and you think, oh, so I'm choosing to be anxious? No, nobody chooses to have anxiety or chooses to have chronic stress. I like to think of anxiety like a smoke detector in your kitchen, right? It's not the problem when it's ringing off the hook. The problem is the fire, right? And so what we've done is we've created lives. We light fires everywhere, and then we get really frustrated that the alarms are getting our attention. And so if you want the alarms to go off, you got to deal with the fires. And so the fires are, culturally speaking, are these 6 daily choices that we got to head into to create really a different life. And you got to start with choosing reality, which is just owning, man. What's the state of my marriage? What's the state of my health? What's the state of my work? What's the state of my finances? Am I safe? Right? You have to choose connection, this loneliness epidemic that's killing us from the inside out. You have to choose to not let other people run your life, whether it's a media company, a political party, a bank. Think about this. Throughout all of human history, the idea that a mortgage company could just come take your home from you was insane, because we didn't owe money unless it was a last resort or we were trying to trap people. And that is the way we live, right? And so your brain knows, hey, you're not safe. They can take your house at any moment. They can take your cars at any moment. And so it sounds the anxiety alarms. We have to choose mindfulness, and not in the old man with a beard on a cloud kind of way, but I'm talking about lengthening the gap between what I feel, that guy just cut me off in traffic, and then what I think and say and do next. And we have to begin to build some space there, because we're so overwhelmed. We are just reactive. Mm-hmm. And then you got to deal with your health and healing. Some of that's trauma, some of that's obesity, some of that is waking up and having 4 Red Bulls before you go to work. And then the last one is we really, as a culture and individually, have to deal with this idea that we are the center of the universe, and our bodies are telling us we are not, and we have to believe in something bigger than ourselves.
Dr. John Delony, his new book is out, Building a Non-Anxious Life. National best-selling author, mental health and wellness expert, host the John Delony Show, of course, along with working with the Ramsey Show, which you hear every day at 1 o'clock here on KCMO. I mean, here's the thing I love about you, John, as well. You're not one of these guys who thinks you're perfect, who acts perfect, who tries to portray everything as well with you. I mean, you have struggled with this, it sounds like, for most of your adult life, and you've lived through this. And how did that apply to you in putting this book together?
Pete, this is the part at first I was embarrassed about, and then I thought, no, I'm going to lead with my head held high. I've worked through this. I've been to counseling. I've taken medication. I've done it, right? I've got a great wife. I've got healthy kids. I've got a killer job. I've got it. And then halfway through writing this book, I actually left my family and moved into a hotel for a while. I went mad, and I realized, oh, man, I'm not living these principles out again. And I remember what my body told me last time. I didn't listen, and it was slowly starting to sound the alarms again that things aren't okay. And it was all good stuff. I got busy. I got on the road. My show took off. I joined the Ramsey team. We're flying all over the country, speaking to live events and doing consulting behind closed doors. Like, everything was good. My marriage is great, but I was slowly not taking care of my body, and I was slowly skipping workouts, and I was slowly finding myself lonely again. I was slowly being on social media way, way, way too much. And I was slowly not going to church. It's just skipping Sunday mornings. I was slowly starting to fall back into some of these old patterns that creates a body that just can't survive. And so, no, this book is very, very much me pulling up a seat at the bar and saying, hey, man, me too, guys. Let's talk about this.
You know, when people think about the Ramsey show and the Ramsey brand, they always think about money. Now, you've been with the team for a few years now, and you've brought in this mental health and wellness side to the equation. But what I'm hearing from you is that a lot of this stuff is intertwined, right? The money stuff ties in to the non-anxious life, which is the new book, Building a Non-Anxious Life by Dr. John Delony. These things all weave together far more than people might realize at first glance.
Yeah, before I worked at Ramsey Solutions, if a couple said, hey, we want to work on our marriage, I'd always tell them, the first thing you'll need to do is sit down and make a budget. And they'd look at me a little bit cockeyed and say, what are you talking about? And if you make a budget, you got to decide your values. Why do we spend money on this? Do we really need that car that big? Why do we go out all the time? What do we want our vacation to look like? What kind of college do we want our kids to go to? It forces you to sit down and say, who are we? And so, man, as recklessly, think about this, all of the just tap your card on the little magic box, click a button on your phone and food shows up. They have taken away 100% of the friction between you and your money. And your brain knows that's not safe. And so it elevates your heart rate, it dumps adrenaline and cortisol into your body. It trying to get your attention that, hey, this idea that there's no friction anymore is not great for us. And so, yeah, when you sit down and make a budget, you are opening up a whole can of how you were raised, what's the state of your marriage, what's the state of your relationship with your kids. Do you like your work, or is your work killing you? It opens up all these other things. Dave has always said, man, money is 20% math. It is 80% psychology. And he jokingly says, so I went and got myself a mental health guy. That's an important part of the journey.
Well, that is such a good line. By removing friction through technological advancements, now I'm not an anti-technology guy, but it has the ease of our lives has caused us more mental health issues, it seems like, and we are not prepared, and we have not prepared ourselves to deal with that because we're in the day-to-day rat race, and that, I think, is what this book ultimately comes down to and ties it back to, right?
Yeah, here's something as simple as, how cool is it that we have this little box that we can text our wives 100 times a day and say, I love you, I love you. I can do that 100 times a day. I can tell my wife how special she is to me. The problem is there's parts of your brain that processes data. There's also parts of your brain that are scanning the environment. And throughout all of human history, if somebody heard the words, I love you, they were in the presence of somebody that loved them. And there was warmth, and there was eye crinkles, and there was a smile, and there was dropped shoulders. All of that was data to the human body. And we've sucked all of that out, and we just text our wives, I love you, you're really special. And so we're trading communication for human connection, right? And all that, again, is just reducing the friction. And what we're finding out, you don't go to the gym and take all the weights off the bar. You put weights on. You don't go to work and work on projects that have no challenges to solve, right? The whole thing is I can solve a problem for you in your home, and that's why you buy my product. And so what we're finding in the human realm is friction is what makes us human. As the great Michael Easter says, we're in a comfort crisis, right? Our body craves challenges, and so it sounds counterintuitive, but I'm asking folks, if you want to be truly well and live a life that is not anxious, that your body's not screaming at you all the time, that you're not blaming and yelling and running and fighting everyone in your life, if you want to do that, you have to inject friction back into your life in safe and appropriate ways. And that's the cornerstone of this book, man. Life is hard. The same as you can never work out on Monday so good that you don't have to work out the rest of the month. That doesn't exist. You can't ever have a meal that's just such good carrots that you can eat chocolate cake the rest of the month. Dealing with your anxiety and your emotional health is the exact same way. I got to be well. I got to choose to be well every single day.
That is two great analogies to wrap it up with Dr. John Delony, of course, part of the Ramsey team. His new book is out. I've got my copy here right in front of me. Came in this morning. Building a Non-Anxious Life. Also the host of his own show, the Dr. John Delony Show. John, always appreciate your time. I assume folks can get these wherever they get their books. Anything else they need to know about getting one of these?
Yeah, it's actually in pre-sale now. The pre-sale's kind of shot out from underneath us. It blew up in a way that none of us were really expecting, and so it's been a pretty neat ride the last week or so. It's in pre-sale now. It actually hits Target and the stores and Barnes & Noble October 3rd, but you can order it, pre-order it right now, $20 at the Ramsey Solutions website or johndelony.com, and I'll bribe you to pre-order it, and I'll send you a bunch of free audiobook, a bunch of goodies along with the purchase. But it's go to johndelony.com or ramseysolutions.com.
Ramseysolutions.com, the place to go. John, always appreciate you, man. We'll look forward to that. I know our listeners will as well, and appreciate all you're doing every day. We'll talk to you soon.
You're a gift, man. Thank you.
You bet. That is John Delony. Always good to have him on the show, and I don't think there's a more important issue right now than this one. In pre-sale, ramseysolutions.com. Looking at my copy right here. Looking forward to diving into it as well.